Okay folks, today's a very special day because it's a new bike day. First, I'd like to get into the brand of the bike that I got. So the brand of this is Batch, and it is there's a spectrum between kind of the big box bikes and then the local bike shop bikes, and this is kind of in the middle there, and it's a little bit of a lower quality, more affordable kind of brand of the Niner brand, which makes very high-end and nice bikes, but this bike is kind of like the midline version, and it is the Batch 707 mountain bike, and this is kind of like their one and only main mountain bike on the market for their company at this point, and it's a very affordable. I got this at a local bike shop, and it was around $360, give or take, with tax and everything, but it has very nice parts. Okay guys, so starting from the ground up, it has CST all-terrain, kind of a mix between road and kind of trail, light trail, not like heavy tires. You really wouldn't take these to Whistler or anything, but they're 29 by 2.1. So I chose a 29er because it provides you a little more stability over running over bumps and such. And again, in the back, it also has the CST all-terrain 29 by 2.1s, and they have a pretty nice tread on them. It's not the most beefy as I would like it. I may do an upgrade here and put Kenda or Max's tires on these to give it a little more trail bike-ness kind of to it. But the tires are also overall pretty nice. Back, and then moving on to the shock, this thing has an SR Suntour XCE 28. So this is a very nice shock. I've tried these on other bikes before, and they're pretty common on entry-level hardtails. And as you can see, it has a preload adjustment on both sides. It does not have lockout, which can be a turnoff to some, but for me it just fits fine. And next are the brakes. I know I wanted to look for an entry-level hardtail in my price range with disc brakes, but this is kind of the best option that I found for the value. It does have Shimano disc brakes on the front and rear, and kind of this setup on the handlebars. Next, moving on to the drivetrain and shifting, this has a Shimano tourney on both the front and the rear derailleurs and shifting, and it is a 3x7 setup. And the nice thing that is included on these bikes, I think that this is standard on Botch bikes. I don't know about other brands, but because I've never seen this before, but as you can see on the cassette, it has an extra gear that is supposed to be good for climbing. That's also the Shimano brand, so we'll have to test that out in upcoming videos, but excited to use that. Also, in the drivetrain here, it has just kind of the typical resin pedals, cheap, are replaceable and upgradable, and then just, I think, the forged aluminum crank arms. Moving on to the bars and the cockpit up here, it has the Shimano 7-speed V-brake and combo with the shifter, so these are pretty nice. I like the trigger shifter style excuse me, the best, and it is very comfortable and natural to my body position. And then the bars on these are I guess just standard to the Botch. They're 740 millimeters, which in correlation with the 29-inch tires, I think and feel that it is a pretty good matchup. So the grips, they're not lock-on, which you would think that coming from like a bike at this price point, you would get lock-on grips, but not included in this bike. They are really comfortable though, so I'm not complaining. They're really grippy and keep your hands on it. And then moving on to the seat, it's an adjustable a seat, pretty comfortable. It's not the most high quality seat, but for the trail riding that I do, it works. It's nothing too high end. But the one thing that I do not like is it does not have a quick release seat clamp, which can get a little bit annoying. But I usually carry a multi-tool with me on trail rides, so that's not too big of a problem, and I don't use a dropper post with this setup, so it's no big deal for me. And then around the bike, there's some nice touches that kind of bring it out as the higher quality bike and more like a local bike shop bike. And starting with kind of on the, there's no big badge kind of on, I guess, the head tube or whatever that would be called, I'm not sure. It's just kind of like engraved in with the Batch logo So it's pretty nice looking. And then also it has internally routed cables, which this was a really nice feature for me because where we live in Ohio, if I do go riding in the winter because it's not always too cold, there's like a bunch of salt and kind of ice on the roads, and I don't want my brake lines kind of corroding. And then there's some nice kind of like blue stripes to kind of accent. That's kind of the accent color because it's on the shocks as well. And then the Batch logo is nice. Just it's not a sticker. It is just the just kind of I guess painted in the aluminum. Then as you can see, the welds on this thing are really nice. They're pretty high quality welds, very strong, and no kind of cracking or corroding on any of these. Okay guys, so now some personal touches that I added. I added kind of this water bottle cage that it is just a pretty standard. I don't know the exact branding on it, but I just got it at my local bike store. And the nice thing about this is it has 2 mounting points on these 2 tubes. Just you can use your multi-tool to undo the standard size bolt and just screw that in. And then I also, which I got from Blake, they gave it to me for a Christmas present. I added a tail light and a headlight. So overall, my last point is, like, would I recommend this bike to others? For people kind of at my level, I'm kind of beginner to moderate. I don't ride super heavy trails, but it's a good bike for light trails and kind of city streets, which is good because we live in an urban area. But I really wouldn't recommend this to somebody who goes in heavy trail riding and such because with the non-disc brakes and some of the entry-level parts, it's not the most, I guess, stable and like really high-end bike with like the crank arms. They're kind of cheap and stuff like that. But for my capabilities, I would take this bike, and overall it has really nice components.